Ready?
Yeah.
Are you sure? Are we live?
Yes.
Oh, we're live.
We are?
Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Extra Storage, new talk show where we'll be discussing video games, movies, and TV shows here on the Our Schools channel. I'm today's host. Sure, we'll go with that. I'm today's host, Rocco Strangio, media teacher here at Niagara Falls High School, and I'm joined by...
I am Jaden Moore, an alumni.
Sweet. So we thought, what better way to start this talk show than discussing The Last of Us?
Yeah.
Obviously, season 2's out. We're at the time we're recording. 4th episode just dropped a couple days ago.
You just dated this whole talk show.
I mean, to give like context of what's happening, because we are gonna be making an episode about season 2 of the show and about the video game. So, so we figured we might as well start with The Last of Us, the first game, and then season 1.
Yeah.
So we're obviously big fans of the show and the game. It's something that...
Kind of embarrassing. I don't have any merch on.
I honestly, speaking of merch, I was legitimately thinking about buying like merch last night, like a T-shirt.
I was like, I wish I had a shirt.
Like I have the Funko Pops behind us. I have a keychain on my keys.
I still want the stop sign.
Yeah, I saw on Etsy that you can get like a 12x12 one, and I thought about buying one.
Put it in this room.
Yeah, it was
Right
$50
here.
though.
Or
Yeah,
somewhere on
we'll
the
buy
set.
one. Maybe in future episodes you'll see the Firefly stop sign from The Last of Us. Who knows? So I guess we'll just jump right into a little more backstory. So we've been talking about The Last of Us since last year, since your senior year.
Yes.
We've talked about the show. We've talked about the game.
Yeah.
You've made an intro for
I
the
made
morning
intro,
show.
I made a video, like 5-minute video essay or something.
Yeah.
I love the game. I found out through the internet, and then the show was announced, and I was like, I have to play this game, because if I don't play this game, I'm gonna lose my mind. So, I think it was, I started part 1 in the fall, and I didn't really finish it until...
A while. It took you a while to finish the game.
Yeah.
I remember.
And
Because I
then,
wanted to talk to you about it so bad.
yeah, and then over, I think spring break or something, or winter break, I started playing The Last of Us Part 2, and then I finished it before June. So sometime before June.
Got it. Mm-hmm.
Which was a lot of game to fit in, because that game's huge, The Last of Us Part 2. But I did it.
Yeah.
And it was worth it.
Yeah, no, The Last of Us, I don't even remember how I stumbled upon it. It was years ago, clearly. But it had to have been, I think, for me, when the first time I got exposed to it was around 2017, 16, like around that time is when I first played the game, and since then I've played it. I don't even know how many times.
Yeah.
I've lost track to how many times I've played Last of Us Part 1. I've played Part 2 a decent amount since it's come out in 21, and I remember when Part 2 came out, and I was excited. I pre-ordered. I was amped. But that's a conversation for another day. Part 1, I guess we can call it, since they officially rebranded it. I personally, for me, the game, I think it's the best game that's ever made, or at least up there. Like it's one of the best games of all time.
I can't think of a better one right now, so...
There are other games that I've played that are like very good. Obviously, like there's Red Dead 2. That's a fantastic game. Uncharted 4 is also incredible.
Yes.
I mean, the whole Uncharted series is so good. But there's also other games that are critically acclaimed that I haven't played. Yeah, like God of War I haven't played.
I haven't played either. I was going to, and then I was like...
There's a lot of games that I feel like the Naughty Dog broke me as a video game player, because you've played these great games and it ruins future games for you, because nothing will stand to the quality.
Height. And it's a little crazy to think of that way. I mean, like, there are other games that are that good. They're mostly known for them are like indie games.
Right.
There's not many like what is it called AAA games that can have a story and have a game that people enjoy to that standard. Like you think of GTA 5, but you don't think of the story.
Right.
First, you think of the online stuff and all the other stuff you can do together. But when you think of The Last of Us or Red Dead 2, you think of the characters, the people, the world.
Correct.
So there's you know. Like,
yeah, I think that's partly part of the reason I think for me why I wanted to have the show is because it's we have our opinions, it's subjective, and we get to share them. We're going to agree, we're going to disagree, and I think it's a fun conversation to have.
I'm here for the debates.
Yeah, I for sure. I think it's fun because whenever in my time in the position we talk about video games and I talk about the best games. Like I always will say The Last of Us. I will always say Uncharted, and then students will look at me like, why?
You know what game I really like? I like the one by Gorillas. Oh my god, I can't remember the name right now. I can't remember the name. Horizon Zero Dawn? Yeah, Horizon Zero Dawn. The first game, I haven't played the second one, but the first game, I loved it. The story was messy, but the message in the end, tears, crying, just like The Last of Us, like sobbing.
I've played maybe like 2 hours of that game, and then I haven't finished it. I need that, but like I have a long list of games I need to play and finish. Then that's like top of my list I need to play because I hear nothing but great things about that game.
I think it's cool.
So I think The Last of Us, the first game, is so unique because of a couple of things that we mentioned. But I think what's mostly unique now that we have part 2 is the contrast of the story, what it says, and how we've talked about it before, that Neil Druckmann in interviews has said that part 1 is based on love. Part 2 is based on hate.
Yep.
So I think it's really interesting that when he said that, it like clicked. I'm like, yes, that makes sense. You see throughout this story, you see that Ellie really starts to, as the game progresses and you go throughout the story, that Joel becomes essentially her father figure.
Yeah.
And then for Joel, it's you see Ellie become and kind of fill that
daughter role or child.
Yeah, fill that hole that Sarah left when she died at the beginning of the pandemic.
I was listening to the podcast that they made for the series, and I think it was Craig Mazin who was like, once you're a dad, you're a dad.
Yeah.
No matter what, no matter how long it's been. And that's Joel, in the show at least, was searching for that, whether he knew it or not.
For sure.
Which is so, like, it's like, because I don't think a lot of people think of Joel that way in the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you really don't see it until like the end of the game, where
that turning point in the middle where Ellie like just starts crying in his arms, and he's comforting her, and he's like, it's the first time you ever hear him speak softly to anyone in the whole game other than Sarah, and you're like, now you get it.
Yeah. I think, and the turning point is definitely when they go to the university in Colorado, and Ellie has to take care of Joel, and like since that, like the whole dynamic changes.
That was terrifying to play, by the way.
Oh my God,
that was horrifying to play, and then the DLC, I was stressing out.
Yeah, I think the whole. It's funny. Playing the game and going through it and playing it so many times, like you forget like what that initial emotion is.
Yeah.
But I now that you mention it, recalling that moment where you think Joel's gonna die, and you're legitimately like, horrified. Okay, what happens next?
I'm horrified. I didn't know, because I knew the ending. I knew what happened at the end, but I didn't know how we got there at all. So when I started playing the game, and I'm like, what do I do?
Yeah, it was so intriguing, and especially when the little bit that you got to play as Ellie was also super intriguing and super interesting. Obviously, that was a little bit of a foreshadowing of what part 2 would be like, but it was very intriguing because even at that point, when you are playing and you run into the town and there's David there, like that whole part is stressful. Yeah, like
I remember vividly that they were like literally searching for me. I was playing as Ellie in that section, and I was like, oh my god, and then I heard a voice suddenly behind me, and I just started sprinting, just like running, because I was terrified, because Ellie's like 14.
Yeah,
And
you
Joel
know that
is
you
like
a grown man
a
who's
grown man.
violent. Yeah, it's funny when the play style, like when you're playing as Joel, like you can go through, you can punch and fight your way through. Like you're Ellie, like you can't do that because people are bigger and stronger and faster than you. So it was really interesting during that aspect, and then obviously the ending of the game was extremely emotional, and I liked the ending a lot of part 1.
Yeah.
Not so much of, I mean, Joel's decision to save her, all that stuff, but just the way that you're left with, if you're just the person that's you see the ending and you see that Allie poses the question, is everything you said is true? And he says, Joel swears by it. She says, okay, like you take that as your regular person, and they'd be like, okay, happy ending.
Woohoo!
But if you go back and see it, even before part 2 came out, you can see there's doubt in the okay. Yeah. There's doubt overall in all of it. And then since we were very fortunate to get part 2, and you see that that explores it further, like that ending is truly like so intriguing of how like you can interpret it. Yeah. I think it's super good.
I think one of my favorite parts about the game, I'm a little fuzzy on the show, but the game is that when you start, Ellie is trying to make conversation with Joel, and Joel is just not letting her at any point in time, and only has to answer the bare minimum. And by the end of the game, it's complete opposite.
Right.
He's trying to cheer Ellie up. He's trying to talk to her, and I think it's interesting because at the end, Joel knows what Ellie's been through. He knows like the whole story, and he still decides to lie to her to protect her, which is it's not. Whenever people are like, because one of the big debates before the show came out and all the other stuff is like, well, what if the cure had worked? What if she was the key to humanity winning? And I'll get into why I don't like the show's. Well, I do like the show's decision, but it's interesting later. But in the game, he makes the choice to lie to her instead of telling her the truth, which is like the decision that like weighs on me more so than taking the cure away from humanity. Yeah. Because like you see that as your kid.
Right.
And I don't know, if I had a kid, I wouldn't lie to them. So.
See, it's interesting now that you bring that part up, because as a parent now, for me, I'm torn between lying or telling the truth.
Yeah.
I think what I understand both. I understand both aspects of lying and not lying, and I think personally, if I were in a situation, it would be a coin flip, because it could be like I could lie or I couldn't. It's like I don't know what I would do. My mind's not made up unless I'm like in the moment and it's right there.
Yeah.
But it's super intriguing that you have that. Yeah, I don't know.
It's a hard decision to make.
It's the hardest. It's so hard, but because you do it out of love, and like you're protecting them, and you're doing that, but also at the same time, like, kids are incredibly smart.
Yes.
So if you find out they're lied to, that there is going to be a lot of resentment for that.
And Ellie is one of like the most smart aleck characters I've ever seen in video game history.
For sure.
Like, ever. So it's like, she knows you lied. And they get more into it in part 2, but he doesn't tell her for years. Which is, that's the craziest part about me. I could care less whether you took the cure away from humanity or not, because in the game, you don't know if that actually would have worked. If you're in Joel's position or in his shoes. But the lying to her, even as she gets older, it's like, why not just say it?
Yeah, it's a super interesting thing that I feel like because we have part 2, we can understand a little bit further, but I really wish that that's something I would have thought about before part 2 came out and analyzed it further, because then that would be a lot more. We'd have a lot more like open-endedness, where at least here we have some closure. Like we can bring it back and have it and close that. So it's super intriguing. Yeah. So we're full agreement. The game is amazing. The TV show.
TV show.
I personally think, so this is my opinion, I think it's the best video game adaptation for film or TV. in the history.
I literally haven't seen a better one. Maybe.
I haven't seen anything
Maybe
better.
Mario Brothers.
I haven't seen anything else
and
to
I mean,
like make
the
it.
old one. Like the
I don't
old
even
one.
know. I don't even know what you're talking about.
Where it's like green screened. I think it's from like the 90s or early 2000s, and it's literally Mario and Luigi, and they literally travel through the pipes of their own house, and it's like they live in a house.
I have no idea what you're talking
It's so funny. It's so funny.
This is like a legit thing by a
Yes,
TV,
it's
like a studio like made this. It's
yes.
not like fan made.
No.
Sound like this would be fan made.
I watched it on TV.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
No,
it's literally the Super Mario Brothers. In the movie, actually, the movie is pretty good. Also, in the movie there is a reference to that television show.
Interesting.
I'm pretty sure it's the little ad they do. I think it's the jingle.
Interesting. I think personally for the video game to be adapted, considering how, for me, the last, I would say like almost like this millennium so far of how things would be adapted for video games. Like you've had Uncharted, which for me is really disappointing because I'm a huge Uncharted fan, and that movie was a disservice to the franchise.
Some might say a dud.
Yeah. I'll go on and say like that movie sucked. The casting was bad. From Tom Holland to being Nate.
I don't know why you would do that.
Mark Wahlberg being Sully was bad. And then all the other characters are like forgettable. I think Antonio Banderas would be a really good villain for that franchise. But like the other characters to me are just forgettable. But it really hurts me because of the fact that I love Uncharted so much. And that movie was so bad. But then there's the Resident Evil stuff that I haven't watched but has been mixed. You said there was Assassin's Creed that was made.
There was an Assassin's Creed movie made in like I think 2018.
Yeah, like there's that, but there's other things that have come out, but it's not coming to me right now. But obviously, The Last of Us being so is so important to us.
Yeah.
So like the show, there were a lot of question marks. A lot of question marks. And personally, I think the first season was good.
It was
very good.
I would argue to say that it is one of the best television series I've ever watched because it already has a good base.
For sure.
It has a strong writing base, and then every choice that they made was intentional to keep the story on track, but delve into deeper characteristics that the game couldn't. For
sure. I like that. I think the biggest thing that I think what helped the show be so good is the fact that Neil Druckmann, who's I think like VP of Naughty Dog, whatever,
co-owner?
He's high up at Naughty Dog, but he was essentially the person who created The Last of Us.
Maybe someone will put like
in the comments.
Right here.
Yeah,
like
that.
Like a line.
Yeah.
And then it'll say what he does.
Yeah.
That would be smart.
Yeah. In some way, we'll figure out what his role is at Naughty Dog, but the fact that he was so heavily involved in the show and listening to the companion podcast for the show was honestly a 10 out of 10 idea because of that. You get to have Craig Mazin and Neil Druckmann together talking about the show, the decisions they made, and you get to hear about why they included this, why they explored that, and why they decided to omit certain things. I thought was really, really clever and really good considering. But what was I think, where were we?
You're talking about their decision making.
Oh, the decision making.
Yes.
Yeah, I think because Neil was involved so heavily, I had faith that it was going to be good.
Yeah.
And it would be close to the source material. So that's where I was. Wow, I completely forgot. That was a bad tangent.
Speaking of source material, I think every derivative that they made from the source material only added to the world that was there. Oh yeah. So the cold opens are something that is not in the game. They give context to the world around them. And I genuinely love them. Like, genuinely.
I think it was really cool for a lot of what they explored and things that the decisions they decided to explore further in the show, what they couldn't do in the game. I thought was really cool and really unique. I think the best example of that is the long time episode regarding Bill and Frank's backstory. Obviously, in the game, you encounter Bill, you go through his town, which I wish I would have seen some of that. That would have been really fun.
Yeah.
But we can get there in a minute. But I like the idea of you find out very little about the relationship that Bill and Frank had in the game when you find Frank dead because he got infected. And
that was awful.
Yeah, that was a unique thing because you find out that like Bill is this guy who's a loner, and he knows he's a loner, but didn't know that he had this vulnerability that he had. So in the show, exploring that was really cool, and I liked it a lot, especially considering you're in this world that is so violent and so unforgiving that you have this vulnerable relationship, and you see it a little bit as they get older. But I think it's super cool, and obviously I was a mess when they decided to go.
Yeah.
It was beautiful.
It was awesome.
Yes, it was a. Yeah,
It was also heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking to go through because in the game you experience what Bill's like, and he is a word I can't say for this channel, and then you just discover Frank, and I think it was a lot worse than because in the game it's Bill's town, so Bill knows what is going on, and he just left Frank there.
I disagree.
Really?
Yeah, it's Bill's town. Frank's there. Frank wanted more from because Bill was very much.
Yeah.
Bill didn't want.
He didn't change.
He didn't want to change. Frank wanted change, which they kind of did that in the show.
Yeah.
But in the show, Frank was able to soften up Bill. In the game, that wasn't that didn't happen.
That wasn't the case.
So you find out.
But at the same time, I'm like, I don't know. You gotta at least like.
I think in the game, personally, I think the game is what they showed the world to be is more unforgiving.
Definitely.
And more dangerous than maybe the show did.
Definitely.
The show, like the world is dangerous. The game is just to another level where like it's more it's darker because you're allowed to be darker.
Yeah.
In the show, they had, I don't want to say they like lighted up, but they wanted to bring a little more, I don't know, positivity. I don't know what's the best way to say it, but
well,
they just.
the show was coming off of like the COVID and everything, so I understand why they didn't want to like just shove the cordyceps infection in your face. It makes sense. But I also think that the story for the show can be more people focused.
For sure.
And the game is more gameplay focused, which all their decisions make sense. They're well written, and I like them. But you can focus way more heavily on the people.
Yeah.
You get way more backstory into Ellie and Marlene, and in the first episode.
Yeah, for sure. I like that. I like that a lot on how they did that. They gave you a lot more context to the Fireflies, to Bill and Frank, and I think that was really important. That especially because you also have to look at it from the perspective of like not everyone who's gonna watch the show is gonna play the game.
Yeah.
So like that's super important.
I would though.
Yeah. So I think that was really intriguing. I thought just overall, like, I know we're kind of scrambled about where we're going on the show, but just like overall on how they managed to take a game that's, a post-apocalyptic, that's deserted, and they made that into like a real world thing, like really well.
Yeah.
Like the use of real effects and then CGI on top of both of those things was like really good.
Yeah.
From like the position that we're in, where we talk about.
Don't get me started on the cinematography.
Yeah, the cinematography is so good. That is the whole show in itself is amazing. Is amazing.
Don't get me started on the clicker scene, okay? In the
it's beautiful.
At the second episode where they introduced the clickers. Oh my god.
Yeah, it was terrifying.
Oh my god, it was so good.
In the game, it's terrifying when you first find a clicker for the first time, and they managed to almost bring that same like fear.
I haven't conquered my fear of infected. I could be a runner, a clicker, a stalk. It doesn't matter. I'm
To
terrified.
be fair, like the stalkers are the ones that I hate the most.
I hate bloaters.
Bloaters are okay. If you're stocked, you're fine.
Yeah.
I'm okay. It's when you don't have supplies and you go up against a bloater, then you're kind of like you're screwed.
Well, I never had that problem because I played the story mode because I like my sanity.
Yeah, I mean I do too. But it depends on the difficulty. Like you don't play just on like an easy one. Just play an easy.
I don't play. Okay, well, I never before The Last of Us. I didn't really like horror. The most exposure I got to horror was like Five Nights at Freddy's. Oh, that's a game. That's technically a game adaptation.
Okay, but I remember
and it
when
was okay.
Yeah,
at
we
worst
watched it.
And really good at best.
That'll be like other people for you. That's like an episode that like other people talk about because I'd never played the games, but we watched it last year.
Yeah.
And like the opinions of everyone was like mixed on the adaptation. So
but that's besides the point. Yeah.
Stay tuned for future episodes like that, ladies and gentlemen.
Right here on the OC.
I feel so weird saying that.
Really?
I hated that.
Really?
I'm not good at that. I don't know.
Live and breathe it.
Yeah.
Hey, stay tuned for future episodes.
More content coming soon.
Easy.
Subscribe, please.
Hit the bell.
Leave a like and a comment.
It's so funny to make fun of them, but we're actually
We're
doing
doing
it. So
Please help us.
please.
It's for the
yeah,
kids.
so my only exposure was FNAF and Until Dawn, but I never had to play the games. Those are all like secondhand experiences, and to this day, I'm still very terrified of horror elements.
Fair.
So
I mean, you say that now, and The Last of Us is the first game I've dived into where it's horror and like that.
I haven't played Resident Evil.
I've played one of the Resident Evils, and it's terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
It's more terrifying because, for me at least, because it's first person.
Yeah.
Because I played Biohazard, and I remember watching people on YouTube play Biohazard and like that, like freaking out about it, and like because of the jump scares and whatnot. That game is terrifying.
Yeah.
And The Last of Us is kind of a horror terror of like.
It's more like an action thriller.
Yeah, but like the terror you feel is like you're genuinely scared. Like you are.
I think that's one of my favorite parts about the harping back to television is that they capture what the characters are feeling through camera, lighting, effects perfectly. Mm-hmm. You feel terror as soon as they feel terror. As soon as someone's infected, you're like, oh no, this is the end.
Yeah, you're really the show does a phenomenal job of making, especially like in the game and in the show where Tess gets infected. Yeah. Like you are upset. And it's so but also speaking on the effects, the way they were able to the show was able to make the infected look exactly like they did in the game.
And they sounded like
they sound everything to that is just amazing.
I mean, to a certain extent, you get it because those are actual sounds that people have to make.
Yes,
so that's real.
So before hold on, let me cut you off for a second. Did you watch that?
The making of.
The making of.
I think I watched
for the first game.
Yes.
So like they in the making of the first game, it's a documentary that Naughty Dog made. They go over like the sounds of making the infected, and I think I read somewhere that they hired some of those same people from the first game. So the fact they were able, like again, that's like a 1-to-1 that they did, which is like if of all the things you had to do 1-to-1, it had to be the infected.
Definitely.
And like the characters, I know again, kind of going on off the tangent of here, but like the effects with the infected being 1-to-1 is incredible. The actors did a really good job of being as close to the source material as possible. Like I was skeptical of Pedro Pascal as being Joel. I was because I saw like he looks like him, but like I've only seen Pedro Pascal as like light characters, not so much serious.
Well, that's
I didn't see him in Narcos. I didn't see him in like the other stuff. So like I had my like doubts.
Isn't he the what is the show called? The Star Wars show?
In Mandalorian.
Mandalorian.
I didn't. I'm not that well versed into Star Wars.
Well, but I know the like Star Wars-ish is more like a serious tone. So
right. Yeah. I didn't see him in I didn't watch Narcos because he was Escobar in the thing. So like I didn't.
Didn't know that.
Yeah. So like I've only seen him in like lighter roles.
Maybe
So
we should watch them.
I should. I mean, after watching the show, like he's a great actor.
Yeah, he's awesome.
He did a great job for.
Funny actually that you brought him up because I was like, we've talked so much good stuff about this show, but we haven't talked about the actors at all.
Yeah, and I think they did a really good job. I know that when the show came out, people were really upset about Bella Ramsey being casted as Ellie.
I don't know why.
I think she did great, personally.
Amazing.
I think she does a really good job of showing that being a smartass, like Ellie. She's got the humor part and all that stuff.
Yeah, if they had kept Bill the same way, people would have been more on board with it. Because there would have been more of that interaction where she gets the chance to be a smartass.
Yeah.
So it's my personal. But what they show is the Ellie. You just cut out like all the action parts and Bill.
Yeah. I mean, I like the part, leaving Bill's and they have the comic.
Yeah,
That is a good insight
That's
into Ellie and how she's funny. But even when she pulls out at the rest stop on their way to Bill, she pulls out the joke book. That's Ellie to a T.
Yeah.
So I think the casting was fantastic.
Yeah.
I love that they brought back in part one they brought back the original actress who played Marlene.
Yes.
I thought that was really cool. They did that in
Tessa's actor was amazing.
Yeah.
Bill and Frank. Oh, I can't remember his name.
The guy who played Bill is super famous actor,
Awesome.
great actor.
Can't remember his name.
Can't remember his name.
He's known for comedy.
Yep.
Can't remember his name though.
They did say in the podcast that comedy actors are the best at playing dramatic, heavy things. And I think it rang true in how they portray the characters. It was really, really good.
Yeah. Because you have to have a certain amount of timing, a certain I actually was listening to the podcast and I was just listening to it and I can't remember his name, can't remember the actor's name, but I know what he sounds like. Neil Offerman, I just remembered suddenly and had no off-screen help.
Nick Offerman.
Nick, I can't read.
Thanks, Ava. Ava's helping us off screen with remembering Nick Offerman's name.
Neil.
It's Nick.
That's Neil Offerman.
It's Nick.
No, I can't see. There's a glare.
It says Nick. Nick Offerman.
Either way, Nick Offerman. Oh, that would have been helpful. The optometrist was like, don't read dark signs, and they have to be big lettered.
Yeah, that's
to
funny.
see anything.
Nice.
But either way, Nick Offerman does an amazing job.
Yeah.
Awesome. And I was just I was driving and listening to the podcast, and Craig Mason did what's it called? Impression of him, and I was like, is Nick Offerman in the room with us? He sounded exactly like him, and I was like, where did he come from?
That's incredible. I think it's super. I feel like we've talked about the show so much, but now that we're talking about it and we're talking it on camera, there is genuinely nothing. There's points I've written down, but genuinely, the show from the top to the bottom of how it was, from the director for Craig for the directors of each episode, Neil Druckmann, Craig Mazin, the cinematography, the actors, the world, the infected. Everything was so good.
Yeah.
There were, I think for me, when I recall back to watching the season, there's things that I was upset about because it wasn't similar to the game. I was expecting when the show was coming out to be a 1-to-1, almost a 1-to-1.
Really?
That's how I would have been, because that's what other way? There's no way you can change the source material because it's so good.
Yeah.
But when they did it, I was upset in the moment, and then I reflected on it, and I'm like, okay, it makes more sense because you have to write it for television, and it's not the same thing.
Yep.
So I think I think there's some pieces in part one that I wish they would have included, going through Bill's town. That would have been fun to see some of that, a little bit more of the darkness of the world when you're traveling through the town and you have to go through infected, because that's just the world you live in.
Yeah. I will say though that for all the darkness, including infected, that they took out of the game, they just poured it back into the characters.
For sure.
Every single moment that Joel has before the last episode is, you get to see this side of Joel where he's serious. He's other than the first episode where he thinks Ellie's infected, you don't really see a harder side of him unless he's in danger and protecting Ellie. And then he just goes sicko mode in the last episode.
Yeah.
And it's oh God, this is why they're all terrified of him.
Yeah.
You don't really see him. He defends himself for the most part. And then he's just full offense. And now you know why everyone is the way that he is with Joel.
Yeah. I think it's really
Terrifying.
Yes, terrifying. I think they did a really good job of writing it, writing him and how it was, because you see the what's the adjective that I'd want to use, the brutality of how he is, like how brutal he is. You see it when you play through him, and you see it, and you showed it, you explained it perfectly, that the show is seeing Joel as this hard character, and Ellie softening him over time, and then when Joel needs to be that person because he has to protect Ellie, like he just a flip of a switch. It's crazy. What I think one of the couple of things that I've really liked about the show is how they introduced Henry and Sam. And I was a little upset at first that it wasn't set in Pittsburgh and they changed it to Kansas City.
Yeah.
That's a minute detail.
I have to say though, they look like Kansas City Chiefs fans.
Yeah.
If they were here right now, I could see them cheering for Patrick Mahomes.
100%. But I think it was really cool, and like how they, like when they roll into Kansas City and they get attacked, similar to the game. I thought it was really good. And then the story of like Henry and Sam and what happened to them, and because we don't get that backstory in the game.
Is her name Kathleen?
I don't remember, but she
irritated my whole soul.
Oh my God!
The first 2 seconds, I just skipped. Just
again, the actress, amazing job of being someone that like
she's
you.
Really sweet.
Probably, but like the way she portrayed that character made me hate her.
Yeah.
Like it was incredible.
The scene where her like sergeant, isn't it the guy who voices Tommy?
Yes.
And he's like, well, the bloater's like he's talking about a bloater, but we haven't introduced the bloater yet. So this is terrifying infected, and he's like, this is a problem. They're like busting through the sewers, and she's just like, but Sam and Henry, they got my brother killed.
Yeah.
And I'm just like sitting there like, there's no way that you live in this world and you're more worried about the 6-year-old and like 23-year-old running around the town just trying to get by over the bloater in your basement.
Yeah.
Literally in your encampment.
Yeah. I think it's so good because of, I guess that's what happens when but I think it's a testament to how well it's written, because they, like, Fedra took care of the infected.
Yeah.
And then they just were like, okay, we got it. We don't have to worry about it. And it was so intriguing. I think that part, that those 2 episodes where they were in Kansas City, I thought it was really good, and I really liked it. And obviously what happens to Henry and Sam is
awful.
I like got upset in the game, but like I cried hard when I watched that in the show.
I think it's because, again, it's a show. It's not the game. You can see through Henry and Sam.
Yeah, like I think, again, the actors that did it, amazing. So good.
Amazing.
So good. And obviously it's a little more heartbreaking because because of the kid who they had to portray, Sam, who was this kid who's deaf. So like it adds another layer to that. And then even like in the game, and then in the show where, you know, they talk about this kid who says like, am I still a person if they turn into a monster? Like, are they still there? Like, it's sad. It's devastating.
I think again, to the lightness of the show that you were talking about earlier, they have, was it the 5th episode?
I think. I don't remember.
It was the 5th or the 4th. I think 4th they get to Kansas City, and at the end they meet him. And then the 5th is the episode that goes into Sam and Henry. But I think it's interesting because you have these relatively light topics that they're going through. I mean, I know Sarah's death, but that compared to the rest of what's going to happen, it's lighter. And then all of a sudden you get to Kansas City.
And it's like it dialed up to 11.
And it's like, it's like you get infected. You get this horrible woman who's after these 2 young kids. You have this kid who's just trying to help his brother get through this apocalypse and live. Yeah. And love him to the best of his ability. Yeah. And then taken away. Yeah, it's kind of, it's funny. It's funny now that like we're talking about it. Like obviously you kind of get that a little bit where
when you're in Boston and you're trying to leave, like you lose someone in
Yeah.
Tess. And go to a new city, you lose someone because they like Henry and Sam were gonna go with Ellie and Joel, but then you lose them and in a heartbreaking way.
Yeah. Awful way.
Yeah, heartbreaking compared. I mean, obviously losing Tess is heartbreaking, but like it's more heartbreaking in how like Henry and Sam go. What?
The way Henry and Sam go are deliberately inflicting wounds into Ellie and I was gonna say Pedro Pascal
And Joel.
and Joel specifically because Joel has the scar where he tried to do the same thing as Henry, and then Sam was taken the same way Riley was.
Yeah.
So it's like they have connected.
Yeah.
And they've made progress, trying to put their past behind them.
Yeah.
And then they just like take all of that progress away, and all they have left is the connection of Ellie and Joel.
Yeah.
And that's where they rebuild.
Yeah. It's so interesting that I like it too, where you have this game that again this world that's unforgiving, and when you get that glimmer of hope, that like it's and then it's just
ripped.
Yeah, it's carpet is taken underneath you. I think it's so intriguing that that happens. I think it's I like that there's you keep running, and obviously in the world like you have these obstacles that keep happening, and like you're suffering loss to remember that like that's the world, like it's not gonna be sunshines and rainbows, like it's the world will destroy you.
To that point, and the game about being about love is that it's interesting that the story takes place in a fantastical, I consider it sci-fi kind of setting, because those are things that could actually happen.
Mm-hmm.
And sci-fi settings usually take place in things that could actually happen.
Mm-hmm.
It's just improbable.
Mm-hmm.
So it's this kind of fantastical idea that there's cordyceps fungus and there's an apocalypse, and they don't let you forget about it, but at the same time, that's not what they're like selling you.
Yeah.
They're punching you in the gut repeatedly with
Mm-hmm.
every single theme baked into these characters.
Yeah.
And it's just like, am I even playing a thriller action game?
Yeah.
Is it even about the infected anymore?
Right. Yeah, it's so much about the humans in the game, and it's so intriguing, and it's just so good.
Yeah.
Hence why we're talking about it.
And it's even perpetuated by the idea that there's like only 5 episodes, I think maybe 4 or 5 episodes in the show where there's infected.
Yeah, it's not as much of a story in the show as it is in the game, and I think it's so intriguing when you think about it and you put it in for television, that like a lot of it is just
Plot device.
yeah,
It's
like
a
it's
thing
the
to push the story
yeah,
forward.
it's so incredible, and even like obviously in the game you encounter so many infected and you encounter so many bloaters, and it's like all of the different types of infected you encounter, and then like you encounter stalkers in the first game, but we didn't see stalkers in the show until the second season.
Yeah.
So like they didn't even know about it till then. So it's like it's super intriguing.
Yeah.
When you encounter it that way, excuse me. It's so like the show, I think so good. And I remember, and I think I distinctly wrote in my notes that throughout the show, the whole season, the first season, that for certain parts of the show where in the game it was critical for it to be like a 1-to-1 with lines and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
they did that.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that so much.
I love the Ellie and Joel scene in the show. I actually like it better than I like the game.
The scene at the end.
The scene where it's their defining moment. It's where Joel decides that he's going to stay with Ellie and take her to, what's it called?
Out west of the Fireflies.
Yeah, to the Fireflies. It's the where they're in the barn house and Ellie was trying to run away because she overheard Joel. I like it more than I like the game because of the kind of role switch that they did, where Joel is violent. He is dangerous, and everyone thinks and believes so, but he himself is not.
Mm-hmm.
It's an outer shell he put on to survive.
Mm-hmm.
And on the vice versa, Ellie is just a smartass in the first game, at least in the show. She's a smartass who just makes wisecracks and has a knife and doesn't even have a gun yet until Joel gives her one. And it's something they touched on in the podcast, where the first scene that Joel and Ellie like start to see that crackle of connection is when Joel was traumatized by the Fedra agent pointing his scope down him, and Ellie's just staring at him, like completely infatuated. And in that scene, they harp back to that first meeting where Ellie is like kind of the aggressor. She's taking more of the yelling, and Joel's yelling at her, but he doesn't want to. He looks hurt, and I feel like in the game it was swapped. Like Ellie was hurt, and Joel was upset at her because she would even think of running away in the first place, and two, that he believed in her.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I like the differentials.
Yeah, and I think that's just a testament to the writing and the actors too. We can go back on it. It's so intriguing when we just looking back and talking about it even more. It's like talking about it in the space that we have is just. I have a greater appreciation for both pieces of that. And it's super cool that we even get to talk about it.
Yeah.
it's fun. I love it.
Yeah.
Let me see. Do I have anything else that I want to bring up?
Special.
It's so cool that like to just have something that is for us to enjoy, and we can have that conversation and dialogue, and it's like, it's so cool.
Is there anything you didn't like?
For the game or the show or both?
Either or.
Yes. Now that I saw my notes again, the thing that I think bothered me a little bit, I think the most that still bothers me a little bit, is in the show when they had Joel's reason on like why he needed to leave the city or like why he wanted to go west in the first place.
Yeah.
Was to go check on his brother. Which I still like am indifferent about. I'm not a fan of it, to be honest, because it's in the game you kind of see a little bit, especially when Joel and Ellie reconnect with Tommy, that it's kind of, Joel has just tried to be the person who provides, but Tommy's like, well, you did, but you didn't.
Yeah.
Like, their relationship was strained.
It's kind of like Joel is a character who refuses to hope. He will only take what he can see.
Right.
And this is the reason why in the show he has so much trouble taking Ellie, because he refuses to believe that there's a cure. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like in the game they like had their relationship just be like broken and fractured, and that was it. And he only goes to Tommy because Tommy he's the only person that he knows where the Fireflies are, and that's the reason why we go to Tommy.
And he really does not want Ellie.
Yeah, like he doesn't, and that was the purpose. So I think the process of going in the game where like Joel is worried about Tommy because he hasn't heard from him in weeks is like, I don't know how I feel about it. I'm still like.
I mean, the purpose of that is to show that Joel he's not stuck in his ways, but he refuses to leave this idea that there's going to be a life.
Yeah, it's
just survive.
Yeah, it's interesting. Even just like saying it and saying that like I say that I'm upset about it, but like, am I really that upset about it? Like
that's the whole show.
Well, like no, but it's I don't know. Like there's that bothers me a little bit. But then even with but then it's kind of they only kind of agreed in the game to smuggle Ellie out of the city was because Robert stole guns to Marlene instead of, so like they had that where it was a car battery instead of guns. So like it was still like there. So it's intriguing, and like those like little tweaks that help the story way more. But is it truer to the source material? No, but like that's where the show has to be different from the game. And I say that out loud now, and I'm like, well, am I that right to be?
Upset.
Yeah, like at first, like I mean, and I might be like this a little bit when we talk about part 2. Like parts of season 1, like I didn't have as much where I'm watching part 2 now, where I'll watch something and it's not close to the game. I'm upset. I'm not gonna watch. I'm like sighing, and my wife knows I'm upset that I'm like watching. She knows that like something is not close to the game because of my size. I'm doing that a lot more in season 2, and we'll talk about that in the next episode. But it's in the game, and again in the show. There's not a lot of those parts that like I didn't feel that much.
No, because I guess the game came out way earlier than the show.
Like 10 years.
You can replay it as much as you'd like, but a lot of the stuff you've already accepted that this is the story.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah. Like
So I feel like, and I mean, obviously Neil Druckmann thinks that he just knocked it out of the park, and he did. But so what's there to change? You can only improve upon the base that there is.
Yeah.
And that's where they went from it. It's like, how can we make this the best possible viewing experience for someone who has played the game, hasn't played the game, and how can we add to the things that are already there?
I think it's just a testament to how good the game is that, like, if you wanted to adapt it to a show or anything, that, like, there's not much you need to change.
No.
I think it's just a testament of how good the game is.
I do think it, I never really had any issues with the show. No.
I think it was good, but I also might be still fuzzy on you were talking about like the Joel and Ellie scene just now. I'm like, I don't remember that fully.
You know what we haven't talked about? The cold open. It's not technically a cold open, but it's the opening for the last episode where you see
Ellie being born. Oh, it's 10 out of 10. That's amazing.
And I
and
like
also
it.
Heartbreaking.
I like it because in the game you can't see it. You can't know that Marlene knows Ellie beforehand.
Yeah.
Unless,
you just say it like in the story, like, oh, how do you like?
She Marlene just came full force and was like, Ellie, and she's been lying about her name for weeks.
Yeah.
And she's like, I knew your mom. And it's like, these are questions that you have asked in the first episode, and they don't get close to the last episode. And that's one of my favorite parts about the first game in the first season, is that it is a very complete story from start to end.
100%.
All threads are closed, connected, everything makes sense. You can make references, as much references in the start of the game, like foreshadowing, metaphors, and it all comes back to Joel and Ellie and where they end up.
Yeah, if there was no part 2 with the show or the game, like, you have closure.
Yeah. You
have closure with the game and the season, and like it's it. And then the fun part would be like, you know, like we mentioned earlier, like how you interpret the ending, and it's super intriguing, in exploring that. So yeah, no, you nailed that on the head. The ending, the beginning of that, I loved that. One of the things that we didn't discuss is I loved that they brought back Marlene from the game, but I loved that they had the guy, the voice actor who played Tommy, who played Joel, who played Ellie. They had them in
Troy Baker,
the show.
Ashley Johnson. Can't remember Tommy.
Yeah, that's why I didn't say their names, because I didn't know his actors, so that's why. But I love that they got roles in the show, and I think that was super awesome. So like Tommy's like the voice actor played Tommy, like in where he was. I'm like, okay, that kind of fits. Yeah. Joel, Troy Baker being someone who's close to David, like the way he's built, like it kind of makes sense. Like that's kind of funny.
It was funny seeing him, and I'm like, no, Troy, that's your enemy.
Yeah. So like, but it was funny. But then like, and even in the podcast when they had, I don't know if it was a podcast. I think they had Ashley Johnson in the podcast where they had her talk about being Ellie's mom. Like that. So if I were to be to be Ellie's voice actor and then like in a show portray her as being the mom, that would be like the coolest. Because you're already like, she's mentioned like there's an attachment to Ellie.
Yeah.
And then having that like honor of being her mom and doing it, like that must have been the coolest. And I cried like a baby when that happened. Like it's beautiful and sad at the same time.
She won a Best Performance Award for Ellie. She's been on live shows for Ellie. She's like, this, like, that's Ellie.
Yeah.
That's
she's
Ellie.
Yeah, she's Ellie. And Troy Baker is Joel.
And Joel. So it was cool to see them all. But
yeah.
Did you know in the last episode when Pedro Pascal, goes to Unalive, the doctor, the voice actor in the game is played by Laura Bailey. And Laura Bailey plays Abby in the second game. And she was just an extra in the game because she didn't know.
Laura Bailey plays in the show.
In the game.
In the game, yeah, plays Abby.
Abby.
But she's in the first.
She's in the first game as an extra.
At the end?
No, just throughout the game. She's an extra voice. I think she's in the beginning of the game. I think she has some segments.
Wait, Laura Bailey's in the first game as
an extra. An extra
And then
VA.
in the show?
And in the show, she shows up again as the nurse. So in the game, she's a nurse.
Okay.
And she makes a voice line like, please don't do it or something. And in the game, she makes the exact same voice line. And you can barely see her underneath the mask. But I was like, oh my God.
I did not notice this.
How did they get all 3 of these actors in here or all 4? And like, no one would ever know.
I did not know that.
I literally barely caught it. I was like, is that Laura Bailey? And I went back and I was like, no. And then I go to Twitter and they're like, Laura Bailey's in it. And I'm like, yes!
I did not see. I didn't even notice that. Dang, good eye. Well done. Wow, that's amazing.
To be fair, Laura Bailey and Ashley Johnson have their own show, part of a friend group. So I follow them and watch their show. And they're also voice actors for like TV shows, movies, anything animated really, and anything game shows. So it's like Laura Bailey's in Uncharted.
She's a voice actress for Nadine.
Yes. There you go.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, and then.
That's really cool. I didn't know that she was in the show. That's really dope. I wonder if they'll have her be in the second season.
That'd be cool. That'd be really cool if they got. You know what actually would be cool is if they got the the model. So every face that they model in the game is after a real person. And
Except for Joel and Ellie.
Yeah, except for Joel.
I know that. So speaking about that, the girl who plays Dina in the second game, she has her own YouTube channel.
Yes.
Did you watch her?
She's so funny.
Did you watch her like replaying through The Last of Us?
Yeah.
And I found that on my feed, and I was like, holy crap, that's Dina, but that's not Dina's voice.
Yeah.
So I was like confused, but then when she sees herself because
Yeah.
it's like it stuck with me when the model who has Dina, Dina's face model.
Yeah, Dina's face model.
Sees herself in the first like she cries, and it was beautiful.
Yeah.
It was really cool, but I didn't know that. I thought that Abby would have been like a face that they made up similar to Joel and Ellie, because Joel and Ellie are not based off of real people.
No, I think Abby has a real actor. I think her like actual full character model is based off of someone. Fully and completely. So I think that would be really interesting if they had like the actual face models, just be like an extra in The Wolf, or like a Seraphite, or just like somewhere out of the corner of your eye, you just go, I know.
Yeah,
them.
but like, so now I have to go back and rewatch season 1 to see if there's like that.
I mean, obviously Ashley Johnson, Troy Baker, and insert Tommy name here.
And yeah, so like if
maybe we could just have someone cut right every time we say Tommy, we just put his actual name.
Maybe.
We'll bleep it out.
Yeah.
But they're more prominent roles, and the reason I'm sure the reason that they kept Laura Bailey there is because in the game she's actually there.
Yeah. No, that 100% makes sense.
And it's really good.
Yeah, but you never know. Like in season 2, she was a main character in season 2, so. It'll be interesting.
It's funny.
Yeah, no, that's hilarious.
There's little Easter eggs all over the place in the first and second seasons. And
I'm really bad at discovering those, as you can tell.
Like,
so.
I can't discuss that because that's the next episode. But harping back to the second episode where they discover clickers, the scene where Joel is explaining clickers to Ellie and he's just mouthing things, I think that's an actual scene in the game. They did it.
Jeffrey Pierce.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, got it.
That's the voice actor who plays Tommy.
Tommy. Jeffrey Pierce. We all knew that.
Thanks, Ava.
We all knew that. Now, I'm going to say Jeffrey Pierce, and then you're going to cut every time I mention the actor. It's going to be that clip, okay? Got it?
Got it.
But yeah.
Yeah, no, that'll be a fun thing to just
So there's a bunch of little things where they have, like, the game, and those are, like, actual gameplay moments that you would experience in the game.
Yeah, that was something I really liked in the
Yeah.
show the first season. You had a lot of that, a lot of
Like the
what you
sneaking,
experienced. Yep.
the what's it called? The clickers. Any infected scene was terrifying.
Yeah,
And
I
getting
think, I think the one thing, going back to one thing I didn't like, but it also makes sense that they didn't include it. In the game, spores are so important.
Yes.
Not including it in the show, it makes sense, and it doesn't make sense.
I think it's okay because they swap the spores for the roots.
So
Because
it makes honestly kind of makes the infected more terrifying.
absolutely horrifying in my personal opinion. I'm more scared of the infected from the show than I am the game.
Yeah.
Because of that exact reason.
Yeah. But the spores are like, you see a little bit after you leave the Capitol building in Boston, where you go down into you escape Fedra and you go down that tunnel into the train thing, and then there's all the spores and that's your first belief of oh, Ellie's actually immune.
Yeah.
So that was really intriguing, and yeah, I guess that's another aspect to one thing I disliked from the show that they didn't do to the game. But again, that makes sense as why you wouldn't incorporate that, because then that'd be a lot more difficult to portray in a show. But then you mentioned, I think we talked about it off camera, you cover their faces, it wouldn't be good for television.
Craig Mason did Chernobyl.
Yeah, but Chernobyl that was based off of real events. You can't change what happened.
But I genuinely think that they're more terrifying with the roots because
100%.
It's mycelium.
Yeah. Yeah,
it's everywhere. Anywhere that things can grow,
yeah,
it grows. And it's been 20 years.
Yeah,
I would not leave Jackson a day in my life. Never.
Yeah. It's intriguing. Okay.
Nope. You think of ways to end this?
Kind of. But it was more, yeah, that's The Last of Us Part 1.
That's Last of Us Part 1.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was fun. Thanks for having me.
Of course.
Can I come back?
Yeah, we're going to do Part 2.
Yes!
Yeah.
Go!
So, yeah, Part 2 on The Last of Us, the game in the show, will be coming soon. No idea when we're going to post this.
Hey. This has been the first episode of Extra Storage. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed, please look out for more. And if you didn't enjoy, please tell us why. That's concerning. We're pretty good.
Yeah, leave a comment. Let us know what you want to talk about next, and
I'll see you for episode 2.
yeah, we'll see you soon for episode 2.
Peace.